Alright guys, TacticalRab in today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. We have some juicy results to dive into today. A massive day for storylines, not just in terms of World Championship qualification, but also what's going to happen come to Major 5, what the bracket might be. 4 teams consigned to just 1 win at maximum. We're going to dive into what those teams are and how they got to this point. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. So much to dive into. We must indeed begin with the Las Vegas Legion. Again, a fantastic graphic, honestly. The team that works on these always does a killer job. Every single big series always gets the hype up for it. And this was a massive one. We talked about it yesterday. There's absolutely no doubt at all if it wants to load. This was big for Surge. This was big for Vegas. Not just the 10 points they did end up acquiring, but also for seeding for the major. Had they lost this series, even though it was still possible, I believe, for them to get to winners brackets, it would have been sketchy. They probably would have been the 8th seed. I think they still might be able to be at that point. It's going to depend really on what happens tomorrow in that Rokkr versus Toronto game, but nonetheless, you don't want to be the 8th seed to play OpTic, is basically how it stands right now, so you want to be above that potential, and usually the 8th seed is a 2-3 team, and that probably will be the case this time, and Vegas needed to try and avoid that desperately. Game 1, they come on top, a great performance here on the Embassy. Vegas are really good at this map, and again, right, this is the thing from Surge, they went down a route of playing, they could have maybe gone a different way in the vetoes, they decided not to. They went this approach, playing an Embassy, and they did win it yesterday, right? In the series they played up against the New York Subliners, but it is a good map for Vegas. They take the game 1. A great performance here from Standy. As I said, when he joined the team before, he was super good. When he joined the team initially, he was incredibly impactful. Then he kind of had a bit of, not exactly a slump, but there was a few weeks that went by where Standy wasn't really killing it, but now he's back on the form that he needs to be on if this team wants to succeed. And then game 2 again, man. It's honestly remarkable how many times these type of events happen here in the Search and Destroys for Surge. Their Search record is woeful. You'd expect them to win at least a respawn in here, but yeah, it doesn't happen. Standy clutches up in the end, the 1v1 against accuracy. Usually accuracy is always good to win these situations, but I've got to say, ever since, the Cold War days where accuracy was clutching everything and anything you gave to him, he hasn't really been the same impactful player in Search and Destroy, and was understandably frustrated with this loss. So, I mean, yeah, they go down at this round 11 at Surge, go down 2-0 to Vegas. Now, in fairness, you can't always count on Vegas losing a control as they did. It was pretty close, actually, though. I thought that there was a chance Vegas could win it, but they win another hardpoint in a similar way. It's kind of funny, like, Clay's reactions after these, because it's almost relief more so than hype, but, it's still a good result, and he knows they played sloppy. This is one of the most impressive things to me about Vegas, is that Clay comes out of this series saying, look, we did not play to the best of our ability, we know we can do better than that, and they still win 2 respawns or 2 hardpoints off Surge, a good hardpoint team, one of the best in the league by their record, pretty comfortably, to be honest. Like, this game, okay, got a bit sketchy towards the end, but it was pretty clear that Legion should have won this one from early doors. They did close out to the ends, and I mean, yeah, man, Clay, what a great story it is for Clayster and for Vegas. Even to be in with a shout of making champs is pretty remarkable, and the chances are, depending on what happens tomorrow, Rokkr versus Toronto, if Rokkr lose, as you'd think they would, 70% chance, 75% chance they probably do lose, and if they do, then Vegas will be only 10 points behind Rokkr going into the major, and that means all they've got to do, if that is the case, they might be 20 points behind, but still, if they're 10 points behind, as they presently are, game in hand for Rokkr for their final qualifier, but if they're 10 points behind, all they've got to do is outplace them. If they come top 12, you come top 8. If they come top 8, you come top 6. Put 10 more points on the board, their record is better, Vegas, their head-to-head, whatever the tiebreakers are, it works better for Vegas, so they only need to tie Rokkr to outdo them, is basically what the situation is. So all they've got to do is outplace them by either 10 or 20 points, and if you'd have told them a few months ago now, Vegas, that they could just have to outplace Rokkr effectively at a tournament to qualify for champs, they'd have bitten your hand off for the opportunity to do exactly that, and they pretty much have the chance to do so. They will have to improve. I mean, if they want to make the run, Rokkr could do well at the major, right? No doubt about it. So, it's possible that Legion might even have to get as far as top 4. They might have to make Sunday to make champs. That's not out of the realms of possibility, and in order to do so, they'll probably need to get a bit better, but still, that was an impressive victory. Even Clay says it was sloppy, but they still got the job done. obviously we've got to talk about the Seattle Surge, because we discussed their collapse last night, right, against the subliners, but losing to Vegas is even worse, right? Let's be honest, subliners are better than Vegas, at least in my books as it stands. Yes, Legion beat them the other week, but at the major, New York had their way with them, and, you know, I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a toss-up there, but nonetheless, losing to subliners and Vegas back-to-back is not a particularly good look for a team that is apparently wanting to win championships. This split is extremely unacceptable out of us, says their coach. Sorry to the fans we let down. Even Pred says, sloppy split out of us. Need to lock it in. Been a very stressful year for multiple reasons, I'm sure, from Pred's side, given that he thought he was joining OpTic maybe, and then, of course, that didn't work out, and since then, it's been a rather tricky time. So these then are the current standings, not including the Boston series that we'll get to tomorrow morning. But yes, Surge with that loss, 190, and that's a guaranteed loser's start for Surge, which means that you can't rule out the possibility of a Surge top 12 finish. If Surge were to finish top 12 and Vegas, Rokkr, Boston were all to make a decent run, there is a very realistic world in which Surge could make champs. It's still a low percentage chance, probably, you know, maybe yesterday it was 1% chance, now it might be 3 or 4% chance. It's still very slim, but it's not completely impossible to imagine or to occur that Surge don't make champs, which would be an absolute travesty. And even in the position they're in is still a travesty, to be honest, even though they will probably still make it. Stanley's done great. On Toronto, these were his numbers. On Vegas, these were his numbers, at least from a KD perspective. And these were the numbers on the series. Stanley with a 1.3, Temp with a 1.2. Kelly didn't have to do that much, and yeah, Pred doesn't go positive this time. Mack, it's kind of funny because Mack, it felt like had a pretty decent bounce back series, but still has a 0.87. Most kills though, most damage on his team, but man, I mean, Surge is just such a disaster that you would think that Gwyn to try out at this point is a necessity, but then again, they play possibly one match at the major from now on, and then it's champs. So is there really time? I don't know, but as it stands, I just can't see them achieving anything there. Another big storyline though was OpTic playing the Florida Mutineers. I said this one earlier today could have go game 5 or could have gone game 5, and honestly, it wasn't too far away from going game 5. This was a really competitive series in Florida. I've been very impressed with them, to be honest, so far, but OpTic just have that little extra edge. They've got the ice factor, and they've got Shotzzy as well, and that always helps. He was ridiculous this series, and there's been a massive debate over the last few weeks. Who are the MVPs of the season? Where's aBeZy in the list? Where's, you know, how close is Octane? How close is Shotzzy? How close is Dashy? A lot of names thrown into the conversation, but Shotzzy is making it very clear towards the end of the title that he's just been ridiculously impactful. That was certainly the case game 1, and with Ghosty now in the roster, or since he's joined, they're 33 wins, 10 losses in hardpoint, which is pretty absurd. A 77% win rate, and they're getting pretty close to the all-time hardpoint win percentage record in the CDL, which was Cold War FaZe, that I imagine hold many of those records. Then in the Search and Destroy, a close-fought affair, to be honest, again, but in the end it was Ghosty with some nice snakes in the final round to clutch up this one and get the job done. So again, competitive. Florida, this is a good map for them, and OpTic eventually win it. But the control, this was impressive, I thought, from OpTic, because Florida did well here. They won a few of their defensive rounds pretty comfortably, but in the end it was OpTic taking 2 defenses back-to-back, and that was enough for them to get over the line. So I feel like the 3-0 defeat for Florida is somewhat harsh on their performance, to be honest, and they will be, I think, a threat in that winner's bracket to beat whatever team they are potentially drawn up against. But OpTic, just another stellar performance from these guys. They're just playing so consistently well. The teams they need to beat, they win against. The teams that they 50-50 series maybe, they win, and honestly, there's no 50-50 series for these guys right now because they are the best team in the game. There is no doubt about it. I don't know how Shotzzy managed this as well. I don't know if there's a trick that he's found. He was shooting his gun right here, and he manages to reload and shoot immediately. I don't think maybe he punched the air or something to cancel the reload like instantly. I've never seen anyone possibly reload. Like, he reloads so fast. Maybe he punches YYs. I don't exactly know what that was, but yeah, that was pretty impressive from Shotzzy. So this guy's finding everything. But what that means is for OpTic Texas, they went 5-0 last time in the Stage 4 qualifiers. Of course, they didn't win the major. They lost to Thieves in the finals. They've gone 5-0 again. They've beaten everyone they needed to beat over the last couple of stages, and this is the first time that any team has ever done this in the CDL since the qualifiers came in back in Cold War. No team, not even Atlanta FaZe Cold War, went 5-0 back-to-back. They had a couple FaZe of 5-0 4-in-1s back-to-back, and even OpTic, I believe, did it last year, maybe sometime with a 5-0 4-in-1 back-to-back towards the start of the year. But this is the first time anyone's ever done that. Stage 4, Stage 5, OpTic have not lost a qualifier game at all. They're 21-4 in their last 25 series. Insane numbers, to be honest. And just these are, just to clarify, so these are last stages numbers, 5-0, 15-3 map counts. And this stage again, it was another 15-3 map counts. 30 map wins, 6 map losses in your last 36 maps. That's an insane level of performance. So this was before, of course, that series was played out because it doesn't quite update on Cocainepedia immediately. But yeah, 15-3 again. So as you can see, Surge further now locked in at 1-4. Either Thieves or Ravens will get a win tomorrow to secure one of these teams at least one win. The other one will be 0-5. Guerrillas 1-4. We'll get to that in a second. So that's your guaranteed bottom 4. So then the 8th place team is not necessarily a 2-3 team, depending on what happens, because Florida now 3-2. Boston FaZe will get into that tomorrow, and then Ultra now 3-1, and they play Rokkr. So very interesting to see. But yeah, this 8 seeds that ends up facing OpTic, who are certainly going to be the number 1 seeds, is actually pretty important, because if you lose your first round game in winners this tournament, you will face, likely, you might face Thieves or Surge, right? And those are teams you don't really want to be facing in losers. If you're Vegas and you lose to like a FaZe, a Subliners, or an OpTic round 1, and then you go to face Thieves in losers, like and face top and finish top 12, like that's a really frustrating way to go out of the tourney. So Vegas will want to make sure that does not happen. But yeah, with a bracket as messed up as it is going to be, with Florida at 3-2, even though Florida 3-2 with a 9-9 map count, that's 50% of course, and Vegas won 3-1, so that sets them up at an 11-11 map count. So both of those teams are 3-2 with the same map win percentage. So then it comes down to all the complicated tiebreakers. But there's more to come on this, and really it's going to come down to tomorrow. Final matches on Sunday that is going to determine our bracket going into Major 5. Just to look at the numbers here quickly, right? Ghosty and Huke didn't have to do much because Dashy had a 1.6 almost, and Shotzzy was even closer to a 1.6 with 74 kills, 47 deaths, a 1.57 KD. Ridiculous impact from both of those two players, and they get the job done again. When one kind of slows down, the other one steps up. Ghosty had some monster series recently. Now, you know, he doesn't always have to do that, and when he doesn't, the other guys step up. Like, they are the favourites again. They are the team to beat, undoubtedly, and surely you would think this is the time they get it done, because only, I think, Toronto and maybe FaZe can actually put up a challenge against those guys. At least if teams in the winners bracket, and Thieves are going to have a hard road back from losers round 1. Let's dive into the final series I wanted to mention here, Toronto versus Los Angeles Guerrillas. This is a crazy stat. Arcitys, until this series, had not planted a bomb the whole year. You would think that surely at some point, you're last alive, even if you're not the bomb carrier, you're last alive, you've got to pick the bomb up and get it down. You'd have thought that would have happened at least one time, but apparently not for Arcitys. But this was officially the first time that Arcitys does go and get the bomb down in the series. Pretty incredible stuff, but it doesn't matter. Ultra win game 1, they win game 2 as well, and then they win game 3. I mean, there really isn't much more to say. I find it hilarious in a way sometimes that towards the end of the year, the bad teams just get absolutely bodied, like week in and week out. We know these guys never got much to play for. We know Toronto are rather good right now, but this was still an absolute bloodbath. I mean, the search was pretty close, 6-4 in the end. The control, one of the rounds, I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest. Guerrillas are just so speed runnable, if that's even a realistic word. And look at the face on Scrappy at the end of this, I thought was hilarious. So a really quick victory, and I mean, Scrappy's face is just like, what are these guys even doing? Like, there is literally no challenge here. The other guys are getting ready to just have dinner, I suppose, for the evening. Scrappy's looking at the camera being like, what are these guys even delivering on the server right now? Because I guess they didn't even have to warm up or work today, and they still got the 3-0, and that's a pretty promising sign for Toronto going into the series that they will play tomorrow against the Minnesota Rokkr. I do wonder if there's any part of Scrappy that thinks, you know what, if I were to, let's say, lose to Minnesota Rokkr tomorrow, and Rokkr were to get 10 more points, then that would make Standy's life a fair bit harder, and we know that Scrappy and Standy have a bit of beef. I don't think that'll be the case. Obviously, Toronto want to ensure the best possible seeding they can for their home major, but just a little storyline there to keep your eyes on as we go into tomorrow. So we'll look at the numbers here in a second after just yet another one here from the Toronto Ultra of some of the tweets we've seen over the last few days, and here we go. So, not pretty. CleanX had a 1.6 this series, absolutely remarkable, but yeah, another classic job at the end of a CDL season when the bad teams get put to bed in about 25 minutes. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.